I don't even know what. She persevered. Oh, and we're live. We're live. Oh, yay. All right. Hello, everybody. And I want to make sure that this is going good. Oh, awesome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tough Woman Table. You guys, tonight we have a little bit of a shorter show. So as you guys come in, please make sure to comment and join in with us. I'm really excited to bring this amazing woman to you. She is just a spitfire, fireball, man. Like everything that I look at, I was like, look at her, man. She's like getting it. So as you guys come in, say, hey, let us know how you're doing, where you at. If you're coming from Facebook, YouTube, make sure, again, to join us in this conversation. So drop your comments, especially if you have questions. This woman is definitely going to be dropping some nuggets, I'm sure. And I hope everybody gets an opportunity to ask her questions. And if you catch us on the replay, hashtag replay. And one last thing, if you guys love the show and because we are going to TV soon, y'all. Please share these episodes if you find value from them and if you feel like somebody else could receive value from them as well, all right? So without further ado, hello and welcome to the Tough Woman Table, you guys. This is the table where I invite some super badass, tough women like Jessica here to take a seat and join in on the conversation and share her amazing story. At Tough Woman, I believe that all women have the power within themselves to live life authentically, free from fear, confident in who they are, and empowered to go out and create a life that sets their soul on fire. I share this belief by championing tough women who have walked through the fire, felt the fear, faced adversity, and kept pushing through it all. Women who own their stories so other women can embrace and own theirs as well. Because as we all know, and as I always say, when you give yourself permission to own and share your story, you give someone else the same permission. Dun, 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 dun. Yay. I'm going to get an audio box one day so I can have the applause thing. Like this thing. All right, you guys. So, yeah, just one more time, you guys come in, say, hey, let us know you're here. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to my guest, Jessica Yarbrough. Hello and welcome.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited too. So you are a business strategist and consultant, and I put marketing and sales consultant. So if you will, tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do and who do you serve and how do you help people?
Well, really, I work with primarily entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants, other people in the service-based industry to help them get their message out there in a big way, sell high-ticket programs, and scale their companies.
Oh, man. That's always like the next notch, right? You know, we always sit there and talk about how we're going to get to that point in scaling. So it's going to be a little bit fun to talk to someone who has experience in that scaling aspect, because I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to scale my business. And you're like, yeah, I'm reading some of your posts, like, there's a whole nother level of stuff you got to break through to start doing the scaling. So
yeah, disclaimer, scaling isn't always sexy. It's not fun stuff.
No, but you know what, though? I feel like it's that Mount Everest, when you get to the top, when you get to that peak, you get that view that comes with it.
Yeah,
so, oh, look at that. Oh, I'm glad she's on here. All right. So your original title was Play Big. So if you will, this is my favorite, tipping off point. If you will, tell us what is your story and what's that story behind Playing Big? Because I got to see the little bits and pieces. But yeah, I'd love to know what it is from your perspective.
Well, I feel like, I always laugh and joke that I'm the black sheep of my family. And I was always someone who wanted to do things my way and didn't go with the status quo, much to the dismay of my family. So I was a tough kid. But I was really someone who said, hey, I'm going to chart my own way in life. And from the time I was 16 all the way up until, having my daughter and today, I chose to go a different path in life. And, I don't know where you want me to begin in my story, but I've kind of gone everywhere from, dropping out of high school to managing a company at 16 to going back to college and getting a degree, to building a company, to walking away, to backpacking around the world for 4 years, to building a consulting company as a single mom. So we can dive into all that if you want.
Pick one. All right. So I'd really like to start with what was that that pivotal first moment, I guess, when you knew going the entrepreneurial route was going to be the route that you were going to go?
I think I was in my early 20s and I had managed, been managing a company. And I actually was asked, so people were like, can you help us? We've seen the work that you've done. And can you come like look at our company and see if you can help us? So I got kind of just thrown into consulting, if you will. And I liked it. I liked being my own boss. Um, I've never been someone that like really works well in a large team environment, or never been someone that wanted to like take orders either. And so I was either going to be in a management position or an entrepreneur, but with a management position, you have to manage tons of people. So I fell naturally into entrepreneurship because there was no limit to when I could work or what hours I had to work, how much vacation I would take, how much money I made, any of those things.
Mm. And so along this path, and one of the things that I remarked on, and I thought this was a really important part to touch upon, was you said at some point you started burning out, and you also
Yes.
talked about self-care being so important. So tell the audience a little bit about what it was to reach that point of burnout and what that looked like in your life, because I think self-care, especially in the amount of work that we do, because I feel like as a society we're conditioned to be productive all the time. So you see more and more cases of burnout happening, but yet we're not talking about it and how it can really affect us. So what was it like to get into this journey and really start hitting that period of burnout in your life?
Oh man, I feel like I've gone through phases of burnout. I feel like it's, like a little bit of a roller coaster. I know when I was working at my startup company, we were pulling in like 60-hour weeks, which now actually doesn't seem like such a big deal, but but at the time it was overwhelming and I just wasn't very healthy and I wasn't happy. My whole journey of travel really got me into yoga, meditation, self-care, really self-love, which is taking time off as well. Um, Fast forward when I was building my business, and kudos to anyone who's building your business right now, especially if you're a parent. The hardest years are always the first couple years. Like you're trying to get people to listen to you, to pay attention, and you don't really have a name for yourself. And it's a very frustrating time. So it's almost like you have to double or triple down or even quadruple down on what you're doing. And I think at the time I was just trying to get to that first income goal. And I had a little baby, dependent on me. And I was hustling hard and I let my self-care kind of go to the back burner because I had to make money. So there's different like needs that arise from that are born from that burnout stage. What I really encourage everyone to do is as soon as you can, right? As soon as you've made some money, to like take a piece of that money and get a massage and get a babysitter to help you a couple days a week. Like pour that back into some time for you, not just to work more, but actually take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely felt and struggled with myself. Just like hustle, 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 and then bam, right into that wall all over again. And you're like
Yeah.
going back just a few weeks. All right. So this is the part of your story that I was curious about when I was reading. So I would like to know about what it is that led you to traveling for, what was it, 4 years, and becoming a teacher? Because I feel like I need to know the story behind that.
Yeah, it's kind of this crazy story. I mean, when I went back to college, I ended up going and studying abroad in Spain. And there I met this amazing guy named Avelino. He was from Angola, Africa. He literally grew up in guerrilla warfare. He became my best friend over there. And he made it. Like he made it out of Angola, ended up becoming this entrepreneur. He's traveled to more countries than anyone I've ever met. And he did it with broken English. And he opened up multiple stores in Spain and Portugal. And so he wanted me to come with him to Thailand so I could see his operations. And like I said, we knew each other for like a year in Spain. I flew over to Thailand, met him over there, and I watched like what he did, because this was a long time ago. This is probably 13 years ago. So he literally was creating products in Asia before like Alibaba or any of this e-com blow up, like that's very mainstream now, right? He was going over to Thailand, like working with people, like, I don't know how he did it, because he really, like I said, didn't speak much English. To get his products created, he would then send them to China. He would fly to China, to some factory town, and get them, custom printed and all of that. So it was fascinating. He was the reason why I went over there, because I wanted to see, like, what was this about? And when I was over there, I knew that's not what I wanted to do. I was working, in a company, but it opened my eyes into the possibility of, like, wow, like, there is a whole other world out there of things that you can do. And it really opened my mind to Asia and to that whole travel scene over there. And so he went back to Thailand. I went back, or to Spain, excuse me. And I went back to San Diego, and I actually, gave up everything. I sold everything and walked away, packed about 13 pounds of stuff, and flew back to Thailand to begin my journey.
So if you will, tell us some of the key parts of that journey, because you really described it as your journey to self, is what I took of what I read from it. So tell us some of the key parts of that journey that you feel really helped to shape you into who you are now.
Yeah, well, I think first, just Avellino being who he was and achieving so much and being so, such an incredible person, just showing that somebody who doesn't finish school, like even high school or middle school, can create that and can travel with limited English. But for me, in my personal journey, it was, like, I really believe that you create your reality. And that has been affirmed so many times in my life. You may feel like your parents have handed you this, like, prescription for life and that you have to follow it, but you don't. You can create your reality. There is opportunity no matter where you go in the world. So I found that. I also, I love other cultures, other food, other experiences. So for me, it was just understanding, like, we are really all the same. Like, we have our different spins on things, but humanity, and humankind in general are good people. And so that was another journey. And then into the self-care was just, hey, taking time to step back instead of just going through the emotions of life, and learning to meditate, learning to drop in, learning to ask and follow your inner guidance, and healing anything that that's holding you back from the past, anything that you might have shame about, all of those things that we don't give ourselves the space to do typically in this society. Amazing space for that in Asia. Amazing space.
I love that you talk about that, because that's actually one of my favorite things to dive into, is the releasing of shame around things that we've held onto for so long. That's been the most transformative aspect I found as far as my healing goes, and just being able to allow myself to have that compassion towards myself. And it really helps how you show up in the rest of the world and how you show up with other people as well, I found. Because if you can hold compassion for yourself, you can hold compassion for another human being, and see them. I mean, I always tell people, if you can see yourself and not feel not feel judgment towards yourself, I said, you're gonna be able to see people and not feel judgment towards them as well.
Absolutely. And that release of shame is such a release of, a weight that we tend to carry around our whole lives. And so being vulnerable and being not being afraid to share your story is really brave. And it inspires others to allow them to tell their truth and to live their truth as well.
So what inspired you along that journey to go into yoga teacher training and become a yoga teacher? That's always like, you hear, because I look at your title and you're like, business strategist, marketing and sales consultant, and yoga teacher. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's like the best thing ever.
I know, it's crazy. Well, I just started kind of getting into it. And I remember a friend saying, why don't you go to Bali? And I went to Bali and I was doing yoga. So I lived in Indonesia for about 6 months. And I ended up just really resonating with this gorgeous school over there. I mean, it was like picturesque. And saying, hey, I'm just going to stay here and learn. And I didn't know if I was going to pursue anything with it, but I actually did. And, I ended up teaching yoga. I ended up teaching yoga in Costa Rica. I literally was like, I'm done with the business world and I'm going to just be a yoga teacher forever. And I always joke and say that if I hadn't got pregnant with my daughter, I'd still be like teaching yoga in Fiji or something, like because it was very, very fulfilling. But I think my yoga journey started, I've been practicing for, I guess 13 years now, teaching for 10. And it's just a part of who I am.
Mm. So what's your favorite type of yoga, or I guess school of yoga? That's what
I
they
don't
would.
know if I have a favorite school really. Like I appreciate everything from the more introspective, like yin types of yoga and restorative. Like I'm a big restorative person because it's like just lay down and relax and breathe. But I also love like the kick butt, vinyasa, ashtanga kind of styles too.
And this gentleman says, "Thank you so much." And Melissa says,
Hi, Melissa.
hello, Melissa." All right. So I want to journey into the next part where you come back from the 4 years, and this is you get pregnant with your daughter after that,
Yep.
correct?
Yes. Yeah. So I was living in San Diego. I got pregnant with my daughter. Her father is not, and has not been in the picture. And I had just like a really like, holy crap, come to Jesus moment kind of, where it's like, I'm pregnant. I've got this beautiful child growing inside of me. Of course, like I always wanted a daughter, and I have got to find a way to provide an amazing life for her. And I didn't want to go back and get a job. It just, I had been so free for so long that going back and sitting in traffic and working in a cubicle or working in an office or just any of that kind of um, paradigm was not going to be aligned with me. And certainly yoga wasn't going to pay the bills. And my vision for my daughter was like, hey, I want to show her the world. Like I'm a big travel junkie and I want to show her everything. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is really to launch my own business. And so I took the harder path because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. And I rolled up my sleeves and said, I'm going to sacrifice, especially I know these first couple of years are going to be the hardest, not only because she's a baby, but because I'm building a business. But I know that on the other side of that is the freedom and the lifestyle that I really want. And so that was the journey I took. And it was some of the hardest years of my life.
Mm. What would you say were some of the most defining moments during that part of your journey?
Well, I think having a child dependent on me with no support would be like the hardest part. I mean, when kids are under 2, they're always like getting sick or getting colds, or and when they're sick, they're so helpless. I mean, they're so helpless really for those first couple of years. And so, just learning to navigate that world. I think it's much easier as your child gets older and they can communicate and process their emotions and all of that. That was challenging. And then I think as far as growing my business, kind of like what I said before, it's like you're trying to, when you're just starting out, you don't have a following, you don't have a name, and you're trying to rise above the noise online and get people to pay attention to you and buy from you. So those two things in conjunction were tough.
Mm. All right, so because we're gonna be closing down a little earlier today. Jessica's little girl is coming back, so we're getting prepared for that. So real quick, I'd like to ask if you had some advice for some of the moms out there who, especially right now, are getting into the business realm and they've got children at home. Obviously, most, if not all, everybody's children are at home. So, what would be some pieces of advice you would have for those moms to really help them pull through and not give up and give in to getting, to not continuing to work through their business?
Well, I would say you definitely need to have some kind of schedule and have some kind of support. Like I said, for me, it was a babysitter, or my friends would help out. If I had to work and I dropped my daughter off just to have a few hours to focus. In the beginning, that's what I did as well. If you got dads can watch the kids, or if the dad's building the business and you can toggle between the two, that's awesome. But really, like creating a schedule is going to be key. The other thing I mentioned earlier is self-care. So, just being aware that what you put into your body matters, and that pulling an all-nighter, or not only getting like 4 hours of sleep, you're not functioning as well the next day. So getting proper sleep, taking care of yourself, loving yourself with some massages and self-care, anything to make you enjoy the process a little bit more, because it is challenging in the beginning.
It is. And Guillermo says, how about dads as well? And that I would say that for all parents,
Yeah.
especially if you're a single parent. I don't think it has to follow moms or dads. I think just as a parent, it's people in general, man. Take it easy with yourself. All right. So since we're getting on last year, I'd really love to give your business and what it is that you've transitioned into with your company. So what is it that you really focus on now within your business, and how has that grown? Like, what has that grown into?
Yeah, so I think initially when I started, I was really helping people in that launch phase, like take their big idea and create a business around it. And over the years, I've shifted more into focusing on people who have an established business and they're ready to take it to the next level. So maybe they're stuck at 50,000 or 60,000, 70,000, whatever it may be, and they're working tons of hours and they really want to get to 250,000, 500,000 and up. And so what we do is help them build what I call an expert authority business, get in front of the right people so that they can, attract and close high paying clients, and then build smart, not always fun, but smart systems to help them automate more so they don't have to work as many hours and they can actually scale up their company. So just depending on where somebody's at, I have two different focuses depending on where they're at and the size of their team, or if they have a team or not. And that's really the goal, is like getting them to create a business that creates the impact they desire and the amount of freedom, both financially and time-wise, that they desire.
Mm. So what has been the most fulfilling parts of your journey, having come along this far to here? What do you feel like are the most fulfilling pieces of that, or the parts that you've really, or the biggest lessons you've learned from your life?
Well, I think like the most fulfilling things, there's a lot to unpack there. I would say for myself, the
That should
most,
have been the first question, right?
let's see. So let's three-part question. The most fulfilling for myself was honestly like realizing my vision. I mean, I remember my newborn was laying there and I just had these giant yellow stickies. I still have them in my office, but where I write notes furiously, where I put everything that I wanted. And then to see that come to fruition is just absolutely incredible. And I don't care a lot about material things, but there are certain things where you're like, wow, I did that, and that's incredibly fulfilling to have that experience. As far as my clients, I think the most fulfilling aspect of what I do is helping people show them what's possible. Like I see the potential in them and their business, and then helping them actually rework it in a way that gets them massive results, life-changing results, is the most fulfilling thing I can do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all right. So one last question before you tell everybody about where they can connect with you. So if this is just a general advice questions, because I know I asked you to speak to moms, but if someone was coming up to you after a speaking engagement, they said, listen, Jessica, I love your journey. I love what you're doing now. What are 3 pieces of advice that you can give me to help me along getting me to that point in my journey?
I would say definitely get help sooner than later. Like get a mentor, even if it's not me, but someone who's further along in their journey. That was, I would say, I've been asked this question, like, what was the biggest regret in my business multiple times? And the answer was always not getting the help I needed sooner. Like I can remember the time when I finally made the decision to get help, and it completely transformed the trajectory of my business. So I would say the first one is get help, because you just don't know. You're starting out and you're just kind of trying to cobblestone everything together. That would be the first thing. The second would be focus on a market that has a lot more potential, and as far as the ability to pay you more money, right? So, for example, if you're going to go with moms, like I did in the beginning, moms are busy. They don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of money because babies are expensive. I mean, childcare can be like $2,000 a month in Southern California. So is that the best market to pour your energy into? Depends. It depends on what you're selling. What I would suggest is go for a different market and look at different potentials. Like, for example, look at people who have a lot more discretionary income. People without kids tend to have more discretionary income. Also, people whose kids are older, right? Their kids are kind of like moving on and going to college. They have a lot more money than people with young children. So you can look at kind of like, where is the most opportunity financially for me? And that might help you target, like determine who your target market is. And then the last one is, find those people after you've identified them and get them results, because there is no better marketing than getting people results. Even if it's not as much as you like the price point that you wanted in the beginning, those testimonials are going to be key for you to then really get the credibility and the exposure that you need to then go and charge a lot higher price the next time. So I would say those are the three things.
So everybody, I hope you all took notes. I hope y'all took notes. All right. So if you want to tell everybody a little bit about the link that you gave me, and you guys, for some reason, Facebook's throwing a stink about me putting this link in the descriptor. So I'm going to drop it in the comments tomorrow. But if you will tell everybody a little bit about what that link is about and how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So this is actually a 16-page case study of how I took my client, who was a business coach, from zero to $500,000 in just 10 months.
Nice numbers right there. Like 0 to $500,000 in 10 months, just 10 months, So for anybody out there who, when people tell you about your financial goals and tell you it's too crazy, don't listen.
Don't listen. Don't listen. I know many people I've had clients who were like flat lines and then generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in a matter of days or weeks. So it's all possible. You just got to keep at it.
All right. So what's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you if they want to work with you?
Go to jessicayarbrough.com. Hit me up there. Hit me up on LinkedIn or Facebook.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I appreciate you giving me some of your time. I know life is probably insanely hectic, so I always appreciate people giving me just a little bit of it. So you guys make sure to pay attention for the panel, and as well as pay attention for what's going to be coming up with the TV show. You guys are going to start seeing me shift more into that being the marketing versus this show. So I hope everybody will hang tight with us and just get really excited for what's coming next, you guys. All right. So I will see you guys Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another amazing panel. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Ashley. Bye.